Glad to know you're still with us. The Minister of Labour and Employment, Chris Ngige, has been criticized by the National President of the Academic Staff Union of Universities, Asuu, Professor Emmanuel Oshodeke, over his alleged authorization of the part payment of salaries to members of the union. This is barely a month after Asuu suspended its 8-month strike in line with an order by the National Industrial Court for the lecturers to return to work. Well, joining us to talk more on this is Alex Okonkwo, a security expert and public affairs analyst. He's still with us. Thank you for staying with us.
Yes, it's a pleasure.
All right, so let's look at this conversation has been on for a while now. Let's start with the government's no work, no pay rule. What's your take on that stance?
Okay, this is a delicate one because in reality, in fairness, to be honest, it is correct. The laws are clear, even with the ILO, the International Labour Organization. The laws are clear. In a convention like this, if you don't work, you don't get paid. Now, there's a nuance. We must clarify that. It is not acceptable to say it the way I just said it, because I had to start like that so that it's very tough initially to hear. But in all fairness, the government is right. The federal government is right. What the law stipulates, I think it's Section 43 or Section 42, I'm not sure now, one of the two, is that while you have the right to strike as a union, not alone, as a union, your employer, in this case the government, has the right not to pay you for the days not worked. What this means in reality is that you can actually strike in the morning and work in the afternoon. Now you see in the nuance, I'm trying to make it a bit clear. Yeah. That you strike does not mean you strike 24 hours. You get what I'm saying? You can block the university 1 hour in the morning and there will still be lectures in the afternoon. You know you've taken your strike, you've made your that's what is allowed actually. That you don't work for 8 months does not give you a right to pay. It's actually in law. I'm not trying to say anything whether in favor of government or not. Okay. It is clear. Now, that does not mean there's a legal aspect and there's a moral aspect. Okay. Where we now come in is because we are saying, because this thing has gone for too long, people have not been paid salary, the government should find a common ground. We are now talking moral. We're now talking as human beings, because everything is not about law. Even the law was written by people. Exactly. So at the end of the day, we are still human beings. If you are talking purely legal, the government is totally right.
But you know, the lecturers have an argument. They are saying that it's a threefold employment, really. There is the research, there is the lecturing, and there is the community service. And they are saying maybe the only thing that has been put on hold during this strike is the lecturing. So the research and the community.
We are going on. How do we know that? I don't know. I can't talk of it. Yes, that's what they say. That's what they say. But we don't know that. The federal government cannot verify that in every university. No, we can't go that drain. Everybody will talk of their interests. We are saying what the law permits. The law permits the federal government, actually any federal government, not just Nigeria, to not pay people that go on strike. Let me also remind us of history. We were talking of history earlier. Just last year, you know, the health workers went on strike for a while. They too were not supposed to be paid. It was President Buhari's intervention with a waiver, a presidential waiver, that's how it's called. He said, okay, go ahead and pay them.
Why are we not seeing that in this case?
Well, we just started. The case just came up that they were not paid. So maybe when the president is confronted again, he will use his waiver. He has the right to use it. And it also depends on the amount. Don't forget, the health workers are fewer than the lecturers. We are now talking of billions of naira. So all these things count. You see, sometimes the information we put out there should be dissected in a way the common Nigerian will understand. It should not be federal government says no to Asuu. No. The law actually says
from what you said now, we
pay.
have the senior advocate of Nigeria who is also speaking for this lecturers. Yes, that's Falano. And for him, he's of the opinion that the federal government should actually pay them. I'm
of the opinion as well. But I'm telling you, I'm putting on the moral ground. I'm saying after all these troublesome 8 or 9 months, these guys were not getting salaries. Some of them were, actually. We'll go into that later. But most of them were not getting salaries. What we should do is find a common ground and pay them.
No, you know, Asuu is coming from the grounds that pro rata doesn't, you know, work for them because they're not casual workers. Yes. According to the unions and precedent, that they are, you know, employed and they have a contract that's, you know, is in quote unique. It's not like your casual laborers, as it were. Do you think that when it comes to the nuances of pro rata, that's effective on Asuu as an employer, an employee rather of the federal government?
No, it doesn't, because they are all also employed as civil servants originally, even though they are under the education system. What the person should have been saying is that what allows them to take this to court is that there is a convention within that law I just mentioned. I was waiting for that to explain it. That if the third party goes against a pre-designed agreement, in this case, they are accusing the federal government. Why they went on strike was because the government did not.
Right from 2001.
Yes. So there's that agreement. They can now use those bases, because I know the son you mentioned knows that very well. Can you and go to tribunals to get their money? So that allows them to go together legally. I'm talking legally now, because somebody has failed in his agreement. You went on strike for that reason. You can now ask me to pay you on the premise that I failed you initially. Yes. Otherwise, the law is the law. So go ahead.
Okay, we'll even delve further into this aspect. I'm just wondering, why is the federal government always failing to meet up with these agreements? Remember, this one stemmed from 2001.
Yes.
It was renegotiated in 2009.
Yes.
The one of 2009 was renegotiated in 2020.
Yes.
And you now have it in 2022. Why is that sequence? Why do we have that repeated, that recurring failure by the federal government?
Again, Nigeria likes to do things wrongly. We've always got it wrong. First, universities should be autonomous.
Exactly.
At least even at 50%. So when the University of Lagos, I'm just using as an example, when it brings a budget of 100 million a year, you should tell them, go and fund 50 million from the public. Do whatever you have to do, school fees, in conventions, whatever. Federal government will give you the remaining 50%. Are you seeing what I'm saying? When it's like that, you will pay the rules. Remember I told you everybody is not supposed to go to university. Remember I started by that. It doesn't work. Even in the US, everybody in the US are not graduates.
No.
In Germany, the same thing. Why are we pretending? Must everybody go to university in Nigeria? That cannot be the idea. It cannot be the concept of a country. Let's have the qualified people go there, and let's have others work for the country. So, like I'll finish my example. If it was like that in Unilag knows they can source 50% from outside. If they source more, it's their problem. Government has assured them they will give them 50%. You will see that our universities will work. The problem is that we're assuming that federal government... Look, if we are going through those lean years, remember that Joseph dream I said, if we are going through those lean years, all of us are going through the lean years now.
So why is the federal government not willing to let universities be autonomous? Because that's one of the demands of Asuu.
Thank you for asking that question. But that should be one of the things on the manifesto of a president.
Yes,
we'll come back to it.
Yes, we have more universities created.
Totally wrong. Why should we have university? Every state has a university. Why? What's going on? What are we trying to do? And then at the end we say we have graduates who don't have jobs.
We had Maritime University.
We are getting it wrong.
Days. We had more universities created.
We are getting it wrong. If you're not creating the employment opportunities for people to, why are you making people go? Do you know that the Nigerian law school is full of people who are going to be lawyers? When last did you have to do with a lawyer? So what are they going to do? I know lawyers who are Uber drivers. I know people, when I say lawyers, I mean they have legal degrees, but they are Uber drivers. Why? Because you can't have so many lawyers in the country. What are we doing? Most of the politicians are lawyers. Do you know that? Because there's nothing to do after. So let's get it right. Let's go back to the drawing board. That is why I said the next presidential, in fact, the presidential candidates should not be telling us which region they are. They should tell us what are they going to do in these things we mentioned. How are we going to solve these problems going forward? Tell Asuu and anybody representing them that look at the funds the government has for you. How can you get the other funds from the private sector? Are we not doing it for infrastructure? Exactly. Have you not heard of them go to building roads? So why are we not doing it for education? Why are we not being inventive? Like I said, we have 6 geopolitical zones, right? We all know it when it comes to presidency, right? Because everybody wants the president to come from their zone. But why are we not talking about it for industry? Why are we not talking about it for agriculture? Why are we not talking about it for oil refinery? Why are we not saying where is the oil refinery in the southeast? Why are we not saying where is the oil refinery in the northeast? But when it's time for president, we say we want a candidate from northeast.
Wait, rather than situate refineries in these geopolitical zones, isn't it better to look at comparative, advantage of these geopolitical zones and, ensure that whatever they have better, is situated in their own region?
You can put it that way. But the crisis they have in Abuja and some other places for petrol is because petrol is not getting there. No, I'm saying take the raw material there, refine it there. It's already there. You can supply. Because at the end of the day, you're very correct. In economic terms, you're very correct. But at the end of the day, you still have to supply petrol to Sokoto. So where would that petrol come from? You still taking a tanker. Why are there accidents of tankers? Because we are using tankers. Well, in the 80s, how are we taking petrol to Sokoto? Has anybody asked? Do you know Kaduna has a refinery? So is there oil in Kaduna? So the reality is this. See, there was a period in our history, and I think it lasted 30 years, when we got it all wrong. And we're paying the price heavily now. The education system should not be privatized the way it was. The teachers you have in the education system in private schools are the teachers who have been in federal government schools. He's the same teacher, but he decided to go to private because he's well paid, he's better paid. The only reason why a teacher goes from public to private is because he's better paid. So it means automatically public schools should be better treated, right? That's what we're saying. So we got it wrong. We really have to get it right. Please, everybody should ask their presidential candidate or the one they desire to vote for to show them the real manifesto of what they want to do against all these problems. Because you and I don't want to have a strike next year again, 9 months, Asuu, right? At least it's something all Nigerians agree. We don't want to go through that.
Exactly.
But we're going towards that. Because by the federal government saying they cannot pay, or they don't want to pay, let me put it that way, which they are right to do. But I'm saying everything cannot be legal.
Black and white.
I want to believe in the coming days, in right to reach a truce, definitely.
And I will tell Nigerians, go back and check. Just last year, Buhari ended up using a waiver, a presidential waiver. That means bringing extra funds that were not allocated and said, pay the health workers their salary.
You just touched about that, which preempted this question. If the federal government is saying, oh, the lack of funds, were being drained due to oil theft and all other, loopholes that are siphoning funds from the Commonwealth. If the president decides to, exercise the rights, that's, power rather, where do they get funds from? That would be the question.
Okay. Well, we do have reserves. We have reserves.
Well, the reserves are depleted.
They're depleted, but they're not zero. They're not zero. No, they're not zero. I mean, we have reserves. And don't forget that the government borrows internally.
Yes.
As much as people don't know, government borrows from banks internally.
CBN and
yes, from different banks, commercial banks. Yes. So there's various ways. And of course, the presidency has emergency funds that they keep. It's natural. Every government does that. Every country does that. So for cases like this, or for cases when flood, you cannot, no government says next year there's going to be this flood and 10,000 people are going to die. So you have all those emergency funds that you can use part of them for.
Okay.
The reality is that Asuu has more workers than the health sector. There are many people involved in the university sector, you know that. And so it's going to cost a lot of money if the president does that.
Well, shouldn't these monies have been set aside somehow?
For strikes? No, that's an emergency fund.
Yeah, okay. I'm looking at while they were on strike. Maybe, well, I guess it's because the government probably didn't have the mind to, pay them while they were on strike.
Yes, but do you know the story of this government? It's simple. I say at one stage, the man at the helm of the affairs didn't have the courage. Nigeria had two options. Not being a very industrialized country, we had the option of either increasing taxation or borrowing. President Buhari went for borrowing.
Borrowing rather than increasing tax.
But they're working on that now.
Yes,
It's a very large extent.
Now, but we borrowed already.
Now that's an issue too. When you talk about increasing the tax nets,
and the tax, widening the tax net. Yes, both horizontally and vertically.
Vertically, yes. Because I know there was a clip of the APC presidential candidate saying that some time ago during one of his colloquiums, and I think about 2-3 years ago, and it generated reactions from Nigerians across social media.
And it will,
who apparently who felt it's not nice that you want to raise tax, on the average person who is still struggling to meet up with a basic standard of living when the cost of living is, as they say, a choke. So here's the thing. Do you think that would be the right step in the right direction in terms of widening the tax net, both vertically and horizontally?
Yes. Totally. I will explain why.
At this time.
I will explain why.
With our debt profile as
well. I will explain why.
Okay.
Let me start by saying something. Either we all decide to be selfish right now, or we decide to be ingenious.
Okay.
I will tell you why. What I want to do tomorrow in my apartment, I can decide to borrow it and say when my children grow, they will pay it back. Okay. I'm always using Nigeria as an example of a man.
Yes.
If you understand the way I use methodically, I always use Nigeria as an example of a man. The man can say, oh, we have to build the second floor, let's borrow money and do it. Or we collect money and do it. That's we collect money, we in the family, and do it.
The challenge with, okay.
Let me just finish that. Every Nigerian that I know, depending on the level, from the market woman to Elumelu, can contribute money in taxation. The market woman will give 1,000 and she can do it. Trust me. They have a lot of cash, believe me. And Elumelu will give 1 billion. But they have both contributed. And we are 200 million. Maybe taxable people are 60 million. You have to remove children and the old. 60 million. My sister, Why are we pretending that we don't know what's wrong with
now when we talk about the issue, please let me come in
Okay.
here. When we talk about the issue of
income tax,
taxation,
sorry, by the way,
when we talk about the issue of taxation, you know, it's a two-way street, and there are those who are arguing that, you know, we don't even know what the federal government is doing with these monies, and the federal government, you know, has not been able to prove to us
what they are
over
doing.
time.
I want to come to that, because you cannot come to that until you come to where the source of the money is coming from. One thing at a time. You are talking of the corruption part and the inefficiency, right?
Exactly.
That's something else. Let's first get the base, because in the case we have a good president, he too will need the tax base. Are you getting my point? We cannot now judge the president before he comes in. I'm not talking going forward. I'm not talking of this government. Right. Going forward, the next president also needs a tax base. So it doesn't change. It's not about Buhari. It's not personal. What I'm trying to say is that if together, collectively, we are contributing, energy price will come down. Are you getting what I'm saying? Have you noticed how the solar panels are cheaper? Have you noticed how they're cheaper than when they came in? Have you noticed how those wide TV screens are cheaper? Because more people are buying it. That is the same mentality we should have our taxation. If we are all spending a bit, each of us, it will cost us a bit less. Collectively. That means you will pay energy a bit less because everybody is contributing. Do you know that people are not paying their NEPA bills?
But when we talk about tax inefficiency, is that a problem of the people or the government and its systems?
It's a problem of the country. We cannot separate the government from the people. You know, and that's another thing.
I'll say government and systems.
Yes, but systems are created by people anyway. We decided to go this way. Look, let's be clear here.